Hey guys, Takuyasugi here. Going to be doing a review today of Sniper Ghost Warrior 3. So I'm into sniping. I like sniping in the FPS games, and this doesn't have multiplayer, but the main attraction for me was doing a single player experience with sniping. I like this kind of model of game based around sniping. And it was pretty good. It was pretty fun to play. I mean, there's a few complaints. Nothing's perfect, right? But it was overall a good time. But let's review the game on its merits of story, gameplay, controls, graphics, sound, and longevity, replayability. That's a lot. But we'll try to get through it. So the story in a Sniper Ghost Warrior 3 I would give it a 2 out of 5. Honestly, it's really run-of-the-mill kind of storytelling and everything. You're in Georgia. It's not the United States Georgia, but it's a fictional version of Georgia, the foreign country from the U.S. Nah, I guess it's not foreign if you're around that area. But yeah, it's a formulaic story. You've got the whole Marine and separatist. A Marine versus Separatist and missing brother kind of thing like that. And there's a few twists and turns here and there, but it's nothing really extravagant or anything. It's just really run-of-the-mill. It's not really a game that you go into it for the story. You're going into it for the whole sniping experience. You're going into it for the whole gameplay aspect of it. And what they do with the gameplay, we'll get to that in a little bit. It makes it feel like the story doesn't really matter too much because you're really playing a pretty fun game on the merits of just the gameplay. So that seems like a pretty good lead-in to doing the gameplay and controls portion of the review. So with the gameplay and controls, I would give it a 3.5 out of 5. What it does well is the sniping with the breath control and adjusting for distance, like you adjust for meters and all that. There's wind as well, wind velocity. I don't know if it was just the easier setting I played on. I played on the normal setting, which is like the baby mode. But I had like a little dot every time I aimed my scope. Even at a far range, it would tell me where to put the bullet with the wind and everything. And it didn't end up mattering because when I'd hold my breath, I'd see that little dot. And I'd be able to get a perfect shot like every time. It was pretty easy sniping, but it still felt satisfying sniping. It was very fun, very gratifying. The other weapons in the game, the assault rifles, they feel great too. The bow feels great. I like using the bow. It feels pretty satisfying to use. There's a lot of different ammo types and everything. There's a lot of different equipment like drones and lots of grenades and bouncing betties and that kind of stuff. It's pretty diverse with the weapons and everything. That's pretty good. The main problems I had that really lower the score pretty hard are the looting system. I really don't like the looting system. I also really hated that to get around the world, getting into the car and stuff. That felt pretty lame. That you got like one car in the game, and there's cars littered around the map that you look like you should be able to drive, like cars with the turrets and stuff. But they all say vehicle locked. I mean, you're this crazy badass Marine and you can't knock a window out and put the keys in. You can't find the keys to drive the car. You have to walk back to your car and fast travel. Luckily, there is a lot of fast travel points in the game, so it wasn't too bad with getting around. So. But yeah, it felt pretty unsatisfying. The world felt pretty dead and everything. It didn't really feel very good until you got to the outpost or the main mission setups and stuff, and then it felt really good. But it's definitely lacking a lot. It didn't really innovate anything either. You got the whole Sniper Elite, Ghost Recon Wildlands style of gameplay, and it does that right, but it's still lacking in a lot of ways. The world, the vehicles, everything being locked and kind of dead. It just felt kind of funky, but you still could play different ways. Like you could play gung ho with the assault rifles and everything. You could play super stealthy with the ghost aspect. There was a skill tree, but that was very shallow as well. There's like only 9 skills per tree, and they're not very innovative either. They're very simple perks and stuff like faster reloading and everything like that. So you didn't really get many fun perks or anything, but You know, I like the way they set it up where you got the ghost aspect by doing like luring people over with a rock and then taking them out with melee kills or something like that. And the sniping with just sniping, that was pretty by the book. And the warrior with the assault rifles, of course, was another thing. But yeah, the gameplay, it could have been better, but what it does handle pretty funly. I wish I could give it a higher score, but just because of the other bad things, I just can't. So moving on to the graphics portion of the review, I would say I would give this a 3 out of 5. The graphics look pretty okay. Some textures look pretty old and dated. The eyes on the characters look terrible. It would give, you know, Mass Effect Andromeda a run for its money. Yeah, the eyeballs in this game are definitely not very good. They look very freaky and glossy and very unnatural. Look terrible. What it does do well, though, I feel like some of the environments look pretty good. Nothing crazy amazing or anything. I think the clothing and the equipment look pretty good as well. And they do pretty well with like kind of textures on clothing and all that kind of stuff. But otherwise, a lot of the trees look kind of and then bushes look kind of and it looks a little bit dated, but plus you can see the occasional little glitch like you got right here with this little moving platform and this little crate, which looked really messed up. So the sound portion of the review here. So the sound in the game was pretty okay. I would say it was serviceable as well. The weapons and everything, they got that little kick to them. They sound pretty good. Unsilenced, you would imagine they're louder, and that's a mechanic in the game. The enemies communicate. You can hear them communicating. The voice acting is pretty good. I would say the voice acting is pretty solid. And of course, there's random audio tracks in the game. The main menu music sounds kind of odd and out of place. There's a few radios in the game and some of these outposts that sound pretty unusual too. It sounds like kind of Russian style rapping and just kind of very unusual. It does fit with the theme of the game, the locale of the game and everything, but it wasn't really anything too great. It sounded kind of cringy at times as well. So I would give the sound a 3 out of 5, solid 3 out of 5. So for longevity and replayability, so the campaign I would say lasted me, if you do the main story, just the main story, it would probably take you around, I don't know, maybe 8-10 hours or so if you're pretty on the ball and quick. It gives you a pretty nice experience. I think the price tag doesn't justify the amount of gameplay you get out of this, however. But the replayability, you could play it different ways, but you really don't experience anything too differently. I mean, you might be able to play the game in a pistol-only way or no sniping kind of way, or maybe you could even do melee-only kills, mostly melee-only kills. That's kind of interesting to think about, but you could play different ways and experiment if you do enjoy a lot of mechanics in the game, which I did. I don't think it's enough for me to replay it over and over or anything, but it was pretty fun. And it does hurt that it doesn't have multiplayer. I think it would actually be okay with multiplayer. This kind of game feels like it would be okay with multiplayer. The sniper games and multiplayer is kind of an odd mix and match, but it can work. I think it could have worked, but unfortunately that's not a feature in the game. Overall, it wasn't too bad with the longevity or anything, though. You got a pretty good set of time in the game, especially doing the side stuff here and there. It felt pretty good. So overall, I would probably give Sniper Ghost Warrior 3 a 3 out of 5 on the foundation of everything it's got going for it. The story's one of the worst parts. The graphics aren't that great either. They're okay. I mean, the story I would say is definitely the weakest part of the game. It felt very bland, and the world felt very bland and unengaging. It just felt so lifeless. I don't know what it is. It's an open world game, and it doesn't have any life to it. It feels like one of those older style games, like something like Postal. I mean, Postal had some charisma there in the world here and there, but it ended up just kind of being really generic and bland. the civilians, they don't really matter. You can't interact with things in the world hardly, besides the occasional climbing. You can't, you know, find new vehicles. There's like no traffic on the road. There's all these vehicles and there's barely any traffic. You might get the occasional enemy patrol or something. But even then, Far Cry, I mean, I remember Far Cry 3, they would call for backup and backup would actually come. They call for backup in this, and at least in normal mode, I don't know if it's the lower difficulty for me, but no help ever came for them, and I just had to search around for some people on outposts and stuff. The AI was okay. They would tend to have little fluky kind of events here and there, but for the most part, they would stay in cover if they knew you were out there, and I thought that was a pretty nice touch. That you couldn't just sit in one spot and wait for like 30 seconds and then they'd move and then you'd kill them. They would stay put like a real person would when it comes to sniping and everything. So that was pretty nice then. The sound was kind of a boring sound experience, but the weapons and everything sounded pretty good. And the controls were very good as well. So overall, 3 out of 5, guys. Overall, 3 out of 5. So if you can ever get it on a discount or something, a very nice discount, I would recommend the game. But as it is, I wouldn't really recommend it at the current price tag. Even though it was a fun experience, I just can't justify that price tag for this. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. I thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you next time.